Okay. Okay. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, we will now start with our webinar. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are joining us from. So, my name is Chinky, and I'm joining from the Philippines. And together with me is Tripti.
I'm Tripti from IPEN South Asia.
Thank you. So, Tripti and I will be your moderators for this webinar. And welcome again. This is our webinar on PFAS in Asia, the forever chemicals in clothing, packaging, and water. Before we dive into the presentations and the proper program, may I introduce Manny Calonzo, campaigner of the Eco Waste Coalition, for his welcome remarks. Manny?
Thank you, Chinky. Good afternoon from Manila, Philippines. On behalf of IPEN, Arnica, the EcoWaste Coalition, EDs, and other co-organizers, I welcome you all to this webinar. We thank you all for your interest to learn more about our topic for today, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances or PFAS, the forever and everywhere chemicals. This is not the first time that we are tackling this chemical threat to our health and the ecosystems. As some of you may know, the International Pollutants Elimination Network or IPEN and its participating organizations across the globe have been conducting studies to investigate and assess the use of PFAS and utilize the data generated to push for policy actions internationally and locally. For example, IPEN conducted surveys on PFAS uses and pollution sources and how the governmental authorities in 12 Asian and Middle Eastern countries are responding to PFAS. Together with Nexus 3 Foundation, it has studied the PFAS content of popular microwave popcorn manufactured in the US and offered for sale in Indonesia. We have done a study on the PFAS content of jackets and other grease-resistant clothing that are sold in Indonesia, China, and Russia. For this webinar, we'll have the opportunity to learn more about the study to assess PFAS use and unintentional contamination in paper, cardboard, and plant-based food packaging and tableware. This is based on the analysis of samples from 17 countries across Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean as collected by IPEN participating groups. We will also talk about the results of another study on PFAS in jackets and other water or stain-proof clothing, many of which are marketed for children's use. The samples were gathered by IPEN member groups from 13 countries in Africa, Asia, Europe, and the US. We will also have the chance to learn about PFAS as detected in water samples collected in Bangladesh. The findings and recommendations of these studies, we believe, will further enrich our collective understanding of PFAS, the forever and everywhere chemicals, and the need for deeper campaigning to elicit urgent action from duty bearers, the government, and industry in particular. These studies, we think, will further show that the current approach of regulating PFAS one by one or in small groups is inadequate and impractical to stop the environmental releases of and human exposures to PFAS. We need a new approach that will result in a comprehensive and universal ban of all PFAS globally to protect and uphold the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. Finally, let me acknowledge Tripti IPEN Regional Coordinator for South Asia, Chinky, IPEN Regional Coordinator for Southeast and East Asia, and Yitka, IPEN Global Researcher, for their hard work in organizing this webinar. We also would like to thank all the webinar co-organizers for their solidarity and participation. Special thanks to Kenneth Felices for the technical support. Sit comfortably, take notes, and get involved in the discussion later on. Salamat po and thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Manny. And yes, welcome again, everyone. So as already mentioned, the main objective of this webinar is to present the results of the IPEN study on clothing, PFAS on clothing, PFAS on food packaging, and also PFAS in water. And this studies was conducted by IPEN in collaboration with Arnica and also with the Faculty of Science, Charles University and Czechia, Prague, and of course with the participating organizations of IPEN, not just in Asia, but around the world. But as our title, our webinar title says, we will be presenting the highlights of the results in Asia for this webinar. So just a few reminders before we proceed. So this webinar is being recorded and we will share with you the webinar recording later, and it will also be made public on IPEN's YouTube channel. And we are also streaming live via the IPENC Facebook page. And I think also with Eco Waste, EDs, we're trying to also cross-post the video with other POs, IPEN Facebook pages like Toxic Links, and hopefully it will be materialized. But if you want, you can also share the live streaming via IPENC Facebook page. And of course, for the Q&A session after the presentation later, kindly type your questions in the Q&A box, and you may also raise your hand to be acknowledged. Okay, so I will now give the floor to Tripti.
Thank you so much, Chinky. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on PFAS in Asia. I'm Tripti Arora. I am the regional coordinator for IPEN South Asia region, and I'm really glad and thankful to all our co-organizers and Yitka for holding this webinar. So I would like to begin by extending our thanks to our POs who were a part of this study. Their immense contribution, I think, helped and structured the study that it is today. So we had the PFAS study was done in two phases. One was in clothing and one was in food packaging. So for the clothing studies, we had NGO from Sri Lanka, Center for Environmental Justice. From India, we had Gramin Vikas Evam Paryavaran Sanstha. From Thailand, we had Ecological Alert and Recovery Thailand Earth. And for the clothing and also for the water study, we had Environmental and Social Development Organization, SJO, in Bangladesh. For the food packaging study from Nepal, we had Center for Public Health and Environmental Development. From Philippines, Eco Waste Coalition. Again, from Philippines, Interfacing Development Interventions from Sustainability, IDIS. And from Taiwan, we have Taiwan Watch Institute. Moving forward to further understand the results of the study, we will hear from Yitka Strakova, who's the global researcher of IPEN. So I would like to just introduce her. So Yitka is a global researcher at International Pollutants Elimination Network, IPEN, which is a global network forging a healthier world where people and environment are no longer harmed by the production, use, and disposal of toxic chemicals. Since 15 years, Yitka worked as a volunteer, a local campaigner, and later as a coordinator of international projects and as a research advisor in Arnica, which is a Czech-based NGO. Yitka's work is closely interlinked with IPEN's Dioxins and Waste Working Group and also involves conducting various studies on persistent organic pollutants, or POPs, in products, waste, and environment. Yitka has authored several studies on recycling POPs chemicals into new products, on brominated flame retardants, and PFAS. So she also led these two studies on clothing and food packaging, and I would like to give the floor to her to share the findings with all of you. Thank you so much, Yitka. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Tripti, for your very kind introduction. Allow me to share my screen, and please kindly confirm you see first slide of my presentation
Yes, we can see it.
and second one.
Right.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I am here today to share with you results and key findings of IPAN's recent study into the presence of PFAS, forever chemicals in clothing, food packaging, and water in Asia. I am global researcher at IPAN, at International Pollutants Elimination Network, and as you may know, we are a global network of civil society organizations from more than 125 countries. And this initiative, this survey, is part of our larger efforts of generating scientific evidence to support policy efforts to prevent harms from toxic chemicals and wastes. And I will explain the reasons why PFAS are one of the most concerning persistent organic pollutants of today. So PFAS, or forever chemicals, per or polyfluoroalkyl substances, are a very large group of chemicals counting several thousands of individual chemicals, which are found basically everywhere around the globe. We can find them from the Arctic ice sheets throughout our food sources, drinking water, raindrops. They are used in many different products in our houses, in our homes, and industrial applications. And unfortunately, they are also in everyone. We can find them in human blood plasma. They are unfortunately transmitted from mother milk through breastfeeding to her children. They are found in Arctic animals. They are basically everywhere around the globe. The reason why they are so present is their persistence. Their persistence is given through the very strong chemical bond, the chemical bond between carbon and fluorine. This is one of the strongest chemical bonds in organic chemistry. And unfortunately, PFAS can be released to the environment at every stage of their life cycle, from the production throughout their use in different products until their final disposal. Unfortunately, PFAS are soluble in water, and our conventional wastewater treatment plants fail to uh, to to treat our drinking waters properly and clean up PFAS from our water sources. PFAS has been used, as said before, in different consumer products, including clothing, food packaging, but also furniture, firefighting foams, or cosmetics. Main sources to PFAS, or main exposure routes to PFAS, are drinking water and food. To finalize my introduction, again, PFAS are a very large group of chemicals, including both polymeric and non-polymeric PFAS, and sometimes they are also divided based on the length of their carbon chain on short and long chain PFAS. No matter which group PFAS belong to, all or most majority of PFAS chemicals are highly persistent due to carbon-fluorine chemical bond. Due to health and environmental concerns related to PFAS, three smaller groups of PFAS were already globally banned by the Stockholm Convention, and these are PFOA, PFOS and PFHXS, and we hope that long-chain perfluorocarboxylic acid or long-chain PFAS will be banned globally at the next conference of parties of the Stockholm Convention. PFAS are also associated with different health concerns and harms, including endocrine disrupting potential. PFAS may increase risk of thyroid disease, but they are also associated with different cancers. Just to conclude this intro and jump directly into the results of our study, let me conclude or highlight several aspects related to PFAS. PFAS, or forever chemicals, are the most or one of the most persistent synthetic chemicals known today. Continuous emissions of PFAS into the environment are increasing the overall levels of those chemicals in different environmental compartments. And basically, the more we learn about these chemicals and their impacts on human health and the environment, the more concerning it is. And with this, I will dive into the data which were collected with help and very active participating of IPEN participating organizations who were also contributing to the studies and overall contributing to the surveys. First, I will look at the study on PFAS in food packaging with particular focus on Asia. PFAS are being used on the surface of different disposable or single-use food packaging, which is made of paper, cardboard, or molded fiber to repel grease from the surface of the packaging, to repel grease which is coming from fatty food, mainly from fast food. To look back at the life cycle of PFAS, unfortunately, PFAS use in food packaging is associated to PFAS migration into the food and then circulation of PFAS and creating new or adding to new exposure routes of PFAS. In our study, we tested different single-use disposable food packaging from 17 countries, including 4 Asian countries, Philippines, Taiwan, Nepal, and India. In total, in the study, we tested 119 items and performed 2 types of chemical analysis. We tested the products for 58 specific targeted PFAS. And in addition to this methodologic approach, we also looked at so-called extractable organic fluorine, which is a proxy for the use of PFAS in products. Because we have only very limited number of analytic standards for targeted individual chemicals, we use also this approach, this extractable organic fluorine, to check if other unknown PFAS are present in these samples. So it's complementary approach detecting all extractable PFAS in samples. This method is useful also to show how much PFAS content of a sample comes from known and unknown substances. And I am coming to study results. So overall, in our study, we identified that majority, in total 61% of all tested samples contain either target PFAS or was tested positive for extractable organic fluorine. It means that majority of selected products for analysis was containing was treated or unintentionally contaminated by PFAS. And the most frequent PFAS chemical was volatile PFAS called fluorotelomere alcohol. When comparing different types, different categories of food packaging, the molded products made from sugarcane and other plant-based fibers, which are basically advertised as biodegradable or compostable, were concerningly having the highest levels of PFAS. This is very concerning because if these products end up in compost, then can migrate PFAS into the compost and be incorporated into the crops which are then grown on the surface. Yeah, and this is a picture of this type of packaging. When looking at the other three groups of food packaging, the highest levels of PFAS were measured in microwave popcorn bags. And then on the third and fourth place of this top 10 were fast food wrappers and cardboard packaging. So in each of those packaging groups, we found samples which were treated or contaminated by PFAS, but the positive result is that we also found samples in each of these four groups which were clean, free of PFAS. And this means that there are alternatives. There are alternatives to PFAS treatment in food packaging, and these alternatives are already in use and are practically available on the market. We also looked at food packaging, which is made of recycled paper, but doesn't need to meet the function of being repelling grease from the surface of the box or of the packaging, because it doesn't carry any fatty fast food product. So we tested, for example, this type of egg boxes, and unfortunately, PFAS obviously find their way from secondary waste paper into the recycled product. So PFAS, the presence of PFAS in food packaging also create a barrier to circular economy and may overall decrease the credibility of recycling. Another important result of the study, it's coming from the comparison of packaging of one manufacturer or one global brand, which came from different countries. We looked also of samples of KFC, Dunkin's Donut, Jolly Time popcorn, and basically all the main global brands which are available on many markets. And overall, in every of those big players, we revealed that some countries are using, or these companies in some countries are using packaging which is treated by PFAS, but is PFAS free in other countries, meaning that those big global players don't have their global policies and are using basically double standards. They are able to use alternatives. Their alternatives are at the markets, but there is no policy incentive which is dragging the change. The policy needs to be at place to push the main players to change their policy and use PFAS-free alternatives to food packaging. And my final slide for this study, there are some key issues related to PFAS, why we are basically concerned about the presence of PFAS in food packaging. It's the contrast of this possible nature of those products, which are having also very high turnover rates with extreme persistence of the chemicals. We are using packaging for few minutes and emitting chemicals to the environment which stay there forever. They are contributing to both short and long-term human and wildlife exposure. Food packaging is contributing to existing exposure routes. As said earlier, single-use products designed to be thrown away very quickly. There is high turnover rate. There are environmental emissions, so PFAS in food packaging are contributing to environmental contamination, and the presence of PFAS in products also creates barrier to clean and safe circular economy, because PFAS are finding their way into recycled products. And here is the link to the report where you can check the other results, and this presentation will be shared with you, available on IPEN web page. And because I want to leave enough time for your questions, I will continue with our second study, which looked or assessed use of PFAS in outdoor or dirt or resistant or dirt repellent clothes, including hijabs, trousers, swimsuit, sport clothes, outdoor soft shell jackets, and different clothing products which are common and popular at Asian and other markets. And we, again, as an overall outline of our study, we purchased clothing items in 13 countries, including 4 Asian countries: Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, and Thailand. So 4 countries who are also one of the top global textile producers. And we in total collected 72 items. It was clear that soft shell jackets are less available in Asia, so we identified and purchased other stain-resistant clothes and tested them for the presence of PFAS. In European countries, more jackets were included into the surveys, and in Asia, the proportion was in favor also of other clothing products. And again, we used the 2-step approach, tested 58 targeted PFAS, and used the complementary approach of testing the items for extractable organic fluorine, which detects use of any PFAS. And now we will look specifically on results from Asia, where we tested in total 26 clothing items, and 18 from those clothing items, meaning 69%, were found to be PFAS positive. Unfortunately, the majority of PFAS content in the products was unknown. We know that those products contain extractable organic fluorine, but our targeted PFAS analysis show only few representatives from the large PFAS group, and the rest of those, the majority of those PFAS stays unknown. We identified PFAS which are either already globally regulated as a PFOA, which was present in important proportion of our tested products, but also PFAS which are in final stage of global or subnational regulations. And PFAS of the highest concentration was volatile fluorotelomere alcohol, which is also precursor of other problematic PFAS. But it's also important to bring good news. And again, there are many clothing producers which are not using PFAS. There are many products available on the market which are PFAS free, meaning that there are alternatives exist and in existence and in use. And just for overall picture, these are types of products which were tested positive for PFAS or extractable organic fluorine. So you may see that those samples included T-shirts, stain-resistant shirts, aprons, jackets, swimsuits, sport clothing, hijabs. Yeah. And what we can also conclude from our study results and finding that producers obviously use PFAS chemicals from the polymeric group of PFAS. These are called side chain fluorinated polymers. And what's obvious from our study results that some of the side chains from those polymeric structures can be cut out from the surface or from the coating of the clothes and be degraded into fluorotelomere alcohol, which is precursor starting chemical of degradation to globally banned PFOA. So, to our opinion, it's necessity and of high importance also to regulate and ban those fluorinated polymers as part of the entire group of PFAS to really achieve decline of PFAS emission to the environment and to decline human exposures to PFAS. And again, what are the key issues related to PFAS in clothing? Clothes are in contact with our skin, which is definitely bringing concerns for consumers. Some of the PFAS which we identified in these samples are volatile, and there were, in other studies, there were high concentrations of fluorotelomere alcohols measured in outdoor markets, which is bringing concerns for salesmen. PFAS can migrate into laundry water, and we also know that PFAS are weathering. So wind, sun, rain is contributing to PFAS emission and degradation, and PFAS emissions are overall present and released to the environment during the entire life cycle of clothes. But on the other hand, we know that the use of PFAS in clothes and also in food packaging is not essential for our society, and there are alternatives existing and available on the market. And again, link to the study where you can find more details, more information, and I will share the slides with you afterwards. And I'm coming now to our third and last study of today, which is related to PFAS release from textile production in Bangladesh. These are only preliminary results. We are releasing this study in February this year, so you will have chance to read more details in the coming report in the upcoming weeks. So this is just first glance, first information, summary information on the data collected. Yeah, so in this study, our partners in Bangladesh, ESDO, collected surface water samples upstream and downstream from potential PFAS sources from 5 textile manufacturing locations in Dhaka in Bangladesh. We were using Cyclopure Dexorb, very simple and user-friendly sampling kit to collect water samples and send them to Cyclopure lab in the US. And we aimed at analysis of 55 targeted chemicals. And there were, as said earlier, different textile industries aimed by the study, targeted by this study, and one of them were export processing zones in Dhaka. These are areas for producing goods for exports, which are duty-free, and sometimes they doesn't have to meet that strong legal legal thresholds as other industries in the countries, and these are big and expanding areas with having export processing zones in Dhaka in Bangladesh is a big expanding areas for textile production. We tested waters from a lake which is located downstream from this Dhaka export processing zone, and this lake is very famous and popular by Dhaka population. It's attractive recreational area, but also area for bird nesting and for nature protection. We collected 4 different water samples in the surface water areas, measuring very high levels of PFAS downstream from the textile industries, and significantly lower concentration at location D, which is upstream the textile potential PFAS source. Here you can see some of the levels of measured PFAS with PFOA and other perfluorocarboxylic acids having high concentration measured. But in the comparison, we may conclude that the highest levels were detected for PFHXA, which is currently in final stage of restriction in the EU, but there were also elevated concentrations of PFOA measured in those water samples also in comparison, for example, with Netherlands advisory risk limits. And again, we can conclude from those results that chemicals identified in the waters can be a result of degradation of side chain fluorinated polymers, which are used in coatings of water and stain resistant clothing. So as a conclusion, textile production for export is a source of PFAS release into the environment. They are high potential for human exposures. They are globally or EU-regulated substances presented in high concentrations. Sure, this study has also its limitation. There is limited number of samples. And it's one snapshot in time. So during maybe follow-up study, we can dive more into the details. And all those textile sources of PFAS are likely sources of ongoing releases of PFAS into the environment where PFAS accumulate or persist basically forever. And there is likelihood of broad overall contamination of other PFAS than those identified by our survey. And now I'm really coming, time is running quickly, so takeaways. Both textile and food packaging are a source of PFAS releases, not only into water, but also into the other environmental compartments. We identified already regulated PFAS in the products and in water, and there is large proportion of unknown PFAS in all of our samples. But it's very clear that there are viable, cost-effective alternatives in the place. It's clear that grease, water, and stain repellency of our products is obtained by treating textiles by side chain fluorotelomers or fluorinated polymers, which are sources of other PFAS to the environment. We believe that only one control measure is the global universal ban of all PFAS. Only class-based approach has to be applied for banning this group of PFAS because basically all representatives of this group are highly persistent, related to toxic effects, mobility, long transfer, and other environmental and health concerns. So definitely most efficient control measure is to urgently ban use of all PFAS, including those for import and export. And my very final slide to remind you why we call for this class-based approach and universal ban of PFAS. There are three main reasons for this appeal. First, PFAS are highly persistent chemicals. Every PFAS emitted today, tomorrow will be part of the pollution for many generations to come. Reason one, irreversibility. PFAS are already found everywhere and in everyone. So the burden is irreversible and environmental contamination extremely challenging, impossible to reverse. And reason three is efficiency. We cannot wait for safety data for several thousand PFAS. We need to prevent regrettable substitution. The more we learn about PFAS, the more toxic they appear. These are the reasons why we need global universal ban of all PFAS. And I thank you very much for your attention, and I am very much looking forward to your comments and looking forward to also to comments and insight of our partners organizations which will be taking floor after me. Thank you very much for your attention and interest.
Thank you so much, Ritka, for your presentation. Indeed, it's really worrying. The results are really worrying. I mean, even me or ordinary people can really be worried about the results because as we are really saying that PFAS is everywhere and anyone it can be at anyone, and also we call it forever chemicals. So just also to mention that because we have lots of participating organizations here, because IPEN is really doing its best that the results of the studies can be integrated in the international policies also. So but after your presentation we will hear some of the participating organizations involved in the studies. um, we have requested some of them to share their reactions and also their work in their country on PFAS. So thank you again, Gitka. So now I will call Iglin from the Taiwan Watch Institute. The Taiwan Watch Institute is a part of the participating organizations that contributed samples or contributed in the studies, particularly on PFAS in food packaging. So may I now call on Iglin?
Hi, Chinky, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Chinky, and thank you, Ika. Then let me share my screen, okay? All right, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll just brief some summary about the result in Taiwan. Although we got eight samples tested, and 7 of them are PFAS positive, and 5 of them are intentional use. So, like we got the Mossburger paper package and the Subway cookies paper package, and one is from a molded fiber package, and 2 of the microwave popcorn bags. They all PFAS positive, and they are both intentional use. Okay, that's the brief. And we also got one recycled paper package, and it's also PFAS positive. So we have held the media praise to publish this data last week, and we made 2 appeals to our government. The first one is we we say that we have to include all PFAS into regulation and make no exemption for those usage which will contact human body or make its way into human body, like food packaging, cosmetics, clothes, I mean textiles, and some firefighting foams. So the first appeal to governments, we have a department of our government. It's called Toxic and Chemical Substance Bureau, which has the authority to legitimate this and make the regulation into force. But their response, I'll talk about their response. They say it's too difficult to determine limits against all PFAS substances. And they said, we surely follow Stockholm Convention and we have started discussions with other departments which involved in this issue. Oh, so that's their saying. And the second appeal to the government, we would like them to include all PFAS into the regulation. We have a separated regulation specifically for food utensils, containers, and the packages. It's called sanitation standards for these products. And the process is, if you want to, the company want their food utensils and those packages to make sale into the market, they have to do some series of tests to test like the concentrations of DHP must lower than some limits, and it include the test of BPA and also heavy metals, but currently not PFAS, not in this test. So our second appeal is just you got to include PFAS. I mean all PFAS into this test process. So these like food packaging or containers, they are allowed to go to the market. And about the second appeal, there's another department of our government. They called Food and Drug Administration. They has the power to legitimate this and make it into force. But this is their response. They said we will wait the Toxic and Chemical Substance Bureau, the previous department I mentioned, we will wait them to amend the superior regulation. So it's like no response to us. Okay, that's the situation here. So now we NGOs in this issue, our next step will be to find food packaging alternatives, and then we'll make some petitions, and then we will show government to say there are already available alternatives. In fact, in Taiwan, we already found some alternatives for paper packagings. So this is our next step to make some movement. All right. Now that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eileen or Waichilin. Thank you so much. You're doing a great job in reaching out to your government agencies. And I think I've heard earlier there are some government of officials or representatives that are also present in this webinar, although they have not yet told us if they want to speak, but I really invite you if you want to share also if you're from the government agency and if you would like to also respond or share something about your efforts in your country or in your government agency, please let us know and we will give you time to share. Yeah, thank you again, YG. And then I hope that in the future you will receive a more concrete response from your government agency. All right. So from Taiwan, we will now request another PO to share. May I request Ram Charitra from CIFED, Nepal, to also share his reaction on the study and also their work. Ram, please go ahead.
Thank you. Can you let me open my video?
Yeah, so can you try it now?
Okay. Yes, I think. Yeah, thank you.
Now we can see you.
Yes. Can you see me? Okay. So thank you for IPEN for giving us the opportunity to participate in these global studies. And thank you, Jitika and then Chinky and Tripti for making this global project in reality. We feel very fortunate to participate and bring this uh, valuable result of PFAS in very important product we use daily, like food packaging. So as Jetica mentioned, like Nepalese sample, 22 sample were included out of 22, 9 tested for PFAS, and out of 9, 1, which is 11.1% of the food packaging sample from Nepal have got 80 nanogram per gram of PFOS, which is more than 3 times more than the US standards. So we prepare, after getting the results, we prepare a short report of Nepalese situation. And then based on that, we made the press release back on 19th January 2024. And we have a lot of media coverage, including electronics media, radio, interview program. I myself personally present on several media, radio interview and all that. And I have shared this with the greater network of IPN and other networks. Coming to the future course of action, after releasing the report through press release, we have media coverage, and I'm using now that media coverage to convince our government to take a future course of corrective actions. So we have already written our formal advocacy letter to Department of Food Quality Testing and Control Department, Ministry of Forest and Environment, which is the focal ministry for Chemical Convention, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Supply, and their respective department. And now we are thinking also to write formally to the supermarket of which samples we have detected with high level of PFOS. And at the same time, we will follow up with our government concerned agencies to make the required legislative framework like act, regulation, and mandatory standards to be effectively implemented. So these are the few future course of action along with the continue public awareness, consumer awareness, and so on. So thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to share a few words in this important event. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Ram. We are witnessing the great work that you're doing, and we are hoping to hear more positive and concrete actions also from the government from your country. So thank you again so much. So from Nepal, I will call another PO to share this time. May I request Titicorn Buntong Mai, or we call him P. He's the acting Toxic Waste and Industrial Pollution Program Manager at Ecological Alert and Recovery Thailand. So Earth is also part of the studies on PFAS in clothing. So go ahead, P.
Thank you, Shinki. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank Jitka, Shinki, and all researchers in this project. From the study, found some clothing brands consider quite high PFAS level in Thailand. So we have planned to some reaction on this. We have communicated preliminary results to brand owners. Some of them are respond and concerned about the PFAS level in their products. They will check with the fabric or textile manufacturing company. And we plan to coordination publish the PFAS in Thai clothing results, have a press release in Thai and press conference with the Foundation for Consumer in next week. In the press conference, we will invite the regulatory agency, brand owners, and the reporter to this event. And the next step for us, we will push the concern and some dangerous on PFAS in clothing to the regulatory agency, regulatory agency and other in Thailand to limit the use of PFAS substance in Thailand. All of this from our past. Thank you.
Thank you, P, and thank you, everyone at Earth for all your great efforts. Yeah, I heard that you have a very active representatives from the government agency in Thailand, and hope that you will also hear more concrete actions from the government agency. So I will now turn over the floor to Tripti for more Q&A. Tripti, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chinky. Thank you, Yitka, for the great presentation, and thank you to all our fellow POs who share their reflections for the project. I would also like to speak one reflection from Sri Lanka that I see right now in the chat box, just so that everybody knows. So Chalani from Sri Lanka, from Center for Environmental Justice, who was a participant in the food and the clothing, PFAS in clothing study. So they are also planning to release the report this week. And one raincoat was contaminated with PFAS in Sri Lanka. So yeah, so the studies are, our national POs are sharing the studies with the media and with the government agencies at the moment. So I would like to speak one question that is there in the Q&A. This one is from Iwan. So yeah, I would speak the questions that are there. So I'm happy to hear that PFXHA is being finalized to be regulated in the context of consumer products. Should a targeted ban on fluorotelomere-based SCFPs be preferred instead of all PFAS? For example, if PHFXA is being regulated and 6:2 FTOH is known to degrade to PFHXA, should 6:2 FTOH specifically be targeted? And another one is on the banning of all PFAS recommendation. Any thoughts on overregulation? Because the definition of PFAS vary, and there is the potential for pesticides and pharmaceutical products that contain CF3 and are not the PFAS that we heard today, but became PFAS because of too broad of a definition. So, Yitka, would you like to answer that question, please?
Oh, sure. Yeah. As partially explained in my presentation, I believe that the only reasonable approach is to use class-based approach to ban entire class of PFAS. Don't go one chemical after another, because there are concerns related to all PFAS due to their high persistence. At certain stages of PFAS knowledge development, industries were claiming that short-chain PFAS are less problematic. So the industry turned from long to short-chain PFAS, but later the research showed that those short-chain are highly mobile and they are revealed in all different environments around the globes. So the more we know about PFAS, the more concerning it is. There is no safe PFAS in the group, basically only because of their persistence. And the reasonable approach is definitely not to be using one by one, always include also related substances and precursors. And this is already approach used by the Stockholm Convention. Yeah, we are banning PFOA, its salts, and related chemicals. And this term, related chemicals, includes all the precursors, so all different chemicals which degrade into PFOA. Same with PFOS and PFHXs. I believe same approach should be used also for the other chemicals. But similarly to industry claims that short chain PFAS are less difficult, less concerning than long-term ones, the current discussion is about the polymers. Industry saying that the polymers are less concerning than the other ones. And this survey and other researches available are clearly showing that those polymers are not stable. They are releasing PFAS at final disposal stages and during their life cycle, during their production and use, they can degrade. Side chains from this fluorinated polymers can be detached and emitted from the polymeric structure. So these are also of high concern. So I believe that PFAS should be banned as a group. Sure, it should be step-by-step approach. We can already now start with basic consumer product as a clothing, food packaging. It's something what we can start develop now because we know that alternatives are available. Manufacturers are ready to use those alternatives. So it's something what can start be happening now. And with other more problematic application, we can use later dates, but the process should start now.
Thank you so much, Chitka. I think that answers your question, Ivan. And if you have anything to add, please go. Feel free to type in the chat, Q&A box. There's another question from Shannon from Esdo, Bangladesh. So she's asking for any safe alternatives of PFAS and degradation methods for PFAS in water.
Yes, so in clothing and packaging, there are usually different waxes used as an alternative to PFAS. There are also chemical alternatives, but there can be also concerns related to those alternatives because they are plastic-based. Some of them are containing polyurethane or silicone. They are silicone-based, but there are also non-chemical solutions. In food packaging, we know that producers are basically also using simple cardboard because it's densely pressed paper pulp material, and the grease not that easily leak through the surface. So for very short-term use in fast food, we can use this cardboard, and many producers use this simple non-treated cardboard because it meets its function. And in clothes, again, these are different waxes, polyurethane again, and again densely sewed or densely bounded fibers of woven and other natural materials are of alternatives. We already know that even big producers of PFAS-based clothing treatments are offering their alternatives. So we can already find something like Teflon Ecolite or PFAS-free Gore-Tex and things like that. So even the big players are turning from PFAS solutions to PFAS-free alternatives.
Thank you so much, Itka. There is another question from Ram, and he would like to take the floor and say it. Yeah. So, Ram, over to you. Please share your question.
Thank you. As you said that we have to go for the class of action, like there are number of PFOS and regulatory frameworks should address all class of action by having single standards and all that. So may I know the single standards of any country who have adopted so that we can portray those kind of example when the time comes to our government to formulate or think of something like that.
Surely, surely. Yeah, currently in the US and in the European Union, there are limits for certain groups of PFAS in consumer goods. And what's very good legislation coming in the European Union is the universal ban of PFAS, offering like 3-level thresholds. First threshold is based on total organic fluorine, other on total concentration of all PFAS measured, and the other based on the measuring of total oxidable precursors. So three different thresholds using 3 potential methodologies. I will be happy to share this with you. This is already proposal for consultation delivered by European Chemical Agency and is now in the consultation period. So hope to see this legislation in the EU no later than in 2 years. We'll be happy to share with you those thresholds, and they are actually also listed in our reports.
Thank you so much, Itka. I see a hand has been raised by Alicia from the attendees.
No, I think down teacher.
All right, that might have been an error. Okay. I see there is one question in the chat box. Yeah. So are PFAS readily released from clothing, example, water repellent jackets, or are they strongly bound?
They are released into the laundry water. We know that during already one washing cycle of outer jacket, 1/3 of PFAS present in the jacket can be released into the water. So after second clothing cycle, your outdoor jacket, which was originally water resistant, is almost free of PFAS, and all PFAS are being released into the water. This is the reason why also PFAS repellents are on the market, and then users even apply those repellents themselves after those 2 washing cycles. So yes, unfortunately, PFAS are released to the waters.
All right. Thank you, Yitka. Yes, so there's another question from Chalani. Is there any convenient testing method to detect the presence of PFAS that you can recommend for countries lacking testing capacity due to high cost? That's a very good question.
Yes, actually, there is no very simple testing method. For food packaging, there is type of do-it-yourself method where you can drop a little droplet of oil on the surface of the packaging, and when you observe formation of very regular bead, this is sign of PFAS presence in the sample. But this method is not like 100% sure in clothing, and it's more like really indication mm, more for maybe more for agencies and civil society groups to select samples which are further tested by labs. But overall, the total organic fluorine can be method recommended for use because it covers all different PFAS groups. But unfortunately, there is nothing like XRF device for testing bromine and an indication of presence of brominated flame retardants. Samples always needs to go to lab and be tested there. It's one of many reasons why entire class of PFAS should be banned because because the testing is complicating for identifying one and differentiating one PFAS chemicals from the another.
Thank you, Itka. So we'll take last question for the day because we're already kind of over time. So the last question. Sorry. Yes, so the last question is about how big is the problem of pesticides containing PFAS?
Oh yeah, actually we have not been testing PFAS in pesticides. I was sharing in Q&As two recent surveys by Pesticide Action Network and by US EPA, if I'm not wrong, and these are offering very good results. So yes, also use of PFAS or degradation products of PFAS application in pesticide is of an issue, and it adds to potential exposures and potential emissions of PFAS into the environment. So definitely pesticides also need to be tackled.
Thank you so much, Itka, for addressing all the questions. And if there are any other questions by the participants, please feel free to share it with us, with me, Chinky, or Itka via email, and we'll be happy to address them for you. So thank you so much, and over to you, Chinky.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yitka, for answering all the questions. I think there are still a lot of questions from the attendees because even me myself, I'm still trying to understand all the technicalities and difficulties of really understanding this PFAS. But thank you so much. And yeah, we encourage the attendees to please send us your questions if you have more questions, and I hope Yitka will be very kind to answer. She already responded that she will be happy to answer more questions and clarifications from us. Okay, so thank you again, Yitka, and that ends our Q&A. And now I will request Sidika Sultana, the Executive Director of ESDO, Bangladesh, for her closing message. Sidika?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a really very hard work. Everybody has done really hard work, and it's a lot of questions. I know many things are happening, and we have also still we are working, but still we have many questions to Jitka. So anyway, so this is the time for the closing. So I would like to express, and I feel honored for granting me the opportunity to speak. And I would like to express sincere appreciation to everyone involved, with a special thanks to the IPEN network and Arnika for their invaluable contribution to this critical project. I mean, since our journey commenced in Bangladesh, commenced in 2019. Our collective efforts have been dedicated to addressing the concerning issues of PFAS, and particularly in the context of the Asia region, particularly in textile and also food packaging and also the water. I extend my gratitude to Zitka for her unwavering support and tireless efforts in investigating PFAS, not only in water, but also in textile. And her dedication has significantly enriched our understanding of the complex challenges posed by the PFAS contamination, particularly within the unique dynamics of Asian region. And I want to acknowledge and express my heartiest gratitude to Dr. Joe DiGanzi. I don't know if maybe he's not here, but from the very beginning, he supported a lot, whose encouragement played a pivotal role in inspiring our work on PFAS in water in Bangladesh. And his guidance has been dynamic in shaping the direction of our research, especially concerning the challenges faced in the Asian context. And also, I feel honored to acknowledge the crucial role played by Cycloclear in facilitating the collection, assessment, and monitoring of PFAS in water in Bangladesh. And because when we just stagnant, how do we proceed? How do we just express and how do we just collect the water? That time, through the JITCA's help, they help a lot. And finally, it's not the finally, I want to acknowledge and express deep thanks to Beyond. You already know who is he in Hypen, and also my adorable colleague in South Asia region coordinated Tripti, and also the C region in Chinky. So thank you very much. Always support us. And as many are aware, the Bangladesh holds a significant position as the second largest player in the global textile industry. And PFAS as a group of hazardous chemicals originates from these industries, making them a major source of PFAS contamination in the region. And consequently, this study assumed even greater importance from the perspectives of Bangladesh, and maybe it will happen in India and Nepal and others in future, and addressing crucial aspects of the country industrial landscapes. And our findings aim to contribute not only to the global understanding of PFAS, but also to the development of strategies that will mitigate their impact on both the environment and the public health in the context of Asian region. In Bangladesh, there is a huge gap in our government sector. Still, they don't have very much idea about the PFAS, what's going on in here. So after this webinar, JITCA and we are planning, and also TIPTI, we are planning, we will reveal our comparison report in Bangladesh in next month, hope so. And we try to invite and involve with the Ministry of Environment here. So we know much regulation, but there is no regulation in Bangladesh. And I don't have any idea about the Nepal and other countries in South Asia region. Is there any regulation or not? But still we are struggling. And this is a new issue. And I know it is a very complicated issue in, everywhere in PFAS. So what happened for our next generation? So thank you very much. I don't take much time to be closing remarks. So thank you very much. Hopefully we all together, we create a momentum for the next generation for the PFAS-free future. Thank you, Chinky, and thank you, Tripti, and thank you, Jitka. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much again. Before we go, may I request everyone who is here in the panelist room to please open your video. Let's just
Okay.
photo up.
I didn't open my video. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mark is also here. Just also to share, know that IDIS is also currently having a watch party in Davao. That means they've set can you see that?
Okay.
Oh, please remove the background, Mark, so we can see everyone at they're watching us. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much.
Hello.
So let's photo up with YG. If you can open your Camera, please. And also
Okay.
Kenneth, thank you. Let's have a quick photo op. Okay. Okay. One, we still have two colleagues, no friends. So with anyway, okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you, Yitka. Thank you to all our speakers, to all our POs. Tripti, would you like to say something before we really close this webinar?
Just thank you to all the speakers, Yitka, all our POs, and you for organizing everything. Kenneth, Manny, everyone who's present here for paying attention and being active with us. Thank you so much, and I hope we meet again.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much for
Bye.
today.
Bye for now.
Bye. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.